Kosciuszko County Commissioner.
Let's see here.
Ernie Wiggins, Kosciuszko County Council.
Mike Belovich, Mishawaka City Council.
Oh, Deb Fleming, Mississippi County Commissioner.
Mark Center, Plymouth.
Matt Deitch, LaPorte District in Don.
Lori Hammond, South Bend Common Council.
Phil Jenkins, City of Napanee.
Susie Wyrick, Elkhart County Commissioner.
Yeah, we do have a quorum.
Very good. Then first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of September 9th.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda would be the financial report.
Morning.
Good morning.
You all should have the August 2020 financial report. On the comparative statement of expenditures, our fiscal year-to-date expense for through August is $837,171.89. Our cash balance through the end of August is $2,128,541.32. Our total disbursements for the month of August was $531,317. Are there any questions? If not, I'd like to ask for the board approval of the August 2020 financial report.
Phil Jenkins, motion to approve.
Carrie Reiner, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Secretary report.
September administrative modifications.
As Mr. Secretary, Mayor Center has mentioned, the September administrative modifications have been passed out in your packets. The administrative modifications are items that staff have corrected in the Transportation Improvement Program that the board has given them authority. You can see that there are 3 items on that September modifications list, and you can find that online or in your packets. That concludes the Secretary's report.
Okay, old business, James?
There is no old business today.
Okay. New business? Brian?
Hi, good morning. We will look at the LaPorte District first. There are 2 projects under the first resolution, which is Resolution 3820. They are both items that are on US 20/US 31 in St. Joseph County. So for item A, the circle along the corridor itself, I have more description on those if you're interested in knowing. Item B is signage all along the corridor, and if you didn't notice in the news, the US 20 corridor has now been renamed to the Metal on our highway. Anyway, if you have any questions, I can answer those now before we, move on. If no questions, I ask for your approval of resolution 2820.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Moving into resolution 3920, there are 3 items. Item A, is in, on State Road 120, just east of Bristol. This is a HMA overlay hot mix asphalt, treatment to the, road there on 120. Item B.
Before you
is-
go on, is there a way you can turn the microphone up a little bit? It's really hard to hear you.
Let me pull it closer. Is that better?
I don't hear a difference.
I can check. One second.
Let's try that now.
Is that better? Any thumbs up? All right, so resolution, 3920 to go back starts with State Road 120 and, is in hot mix asphalt treatment, from the rail line to State Road 13. Item B, also resolution 3920 is on State Road 13, which is also a hot mix asphalt overlay, from, East 1400 North to US 6. And then item C is, throughout the, 2 counties, Elkhart and Casiaco in the Fort Wayne District. It is, high friction surface treatment at, various locations, in those, 2 counties. This treatment is, typically, applied to, help with friction at, crash locations that have been noted. If there's no questions on resolution 3920, I'd ask for your approval.
So moved. Mayor Center.
Second, Gary Reiner.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Ryan. Next item is James.
All right. All of those who are online, can you hear us decently? Yes? Okay. All right, so our next item is actually going to be a presentation, so we're going to switch presentation holders here in just a second. But the presentation is going to be from the Federal Certification Review Team that was in charge of the certification review for the metropolitan planning of South Bend and then Elkhart and Goshen, that urbanized areas. So Joyce, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Are you here?
Yes,
Yep.
I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So we'll switch it over so that you can present, okay?
Okay.
All right, so if you go down to the bottom, you should be able to present from your end.
Are you seeing it?
Yeah, up at the top, you'll want to switch where it says display settings. Yeah, and you'll just want to show us either duplicate is probably my recommendation, the duplicate slideshow. There you go. Now we can see it perfectly.
All right, very good. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Yes, hi, I'm Joyce Newland. I think most of you know me, but I'm with Federal Highways, the Indiana Division. And today, my team, we're here today to report out to you guys the results of the MACOG certification review. So our federal review team consisted of Cecilia Crenshaw, Godfrey from Federal Transit Administration Region 5, Erica Tate with our division, Federal Highway Indiana Division, as well as Carrie Carmody George from our division. And we also had Andy Piggard from the Michigan division helping us with this. As we mentioned, we conducted this review June 16th and 17th this summer. And it was conducted in a virtual format similar to this. It was our very first certification review being held virtually, but these times demanded that we do it this way, and we did it, and it was very successful. And thank you very much to James and his staff. I really feel like the preparation between the two of us, our two agencies, or the review team and MACOG, it was went well. We also offered 2 opportunities virtually, and then and those were attended very well. And then we also then certified the planning process on September the 24th. As I mentioned, the report was issued on September 24th. We had 6 commendations, 10 recommendations, and no corrective actions. Woohoo! So
Okay.
I'm going to go through the accommodations. We're going to have members of the team talk about the parts that they covered. And from here, I'm going to pitch the first one over to Erica Tate. Erica, are you there?
I was gonna say, if Erica is called in, if you just hit *6 to unmute your line, you should be able to unmute.
She said she's here, but she doesn't think they can hear her. So
Okay.
let's see here. We'll have to try to reconnect. Okay, so now how do I go back to the presentation? There we go. Are we there? Are we back?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, on our first accommodation, excuse me, the review team was really commends MACOG for integrating environmental justice and broader community development initiatives to that align with their Metropolitan Transportation Plan (MTP) goals and system performance requirements in project selection and scoring criteria. That was noted as a very nice practice. Then on the ALOP, which is the annual listing of obligated projects, MACOG, I have seen MACOG present these, their funding tables to the policy committee, and the ALOP also reflects that and shows transparency for the stakeholders and public regarding the types and project types of funding for transportation investments. So it's also another tangible connection between project investment and performance management goals. Erica, I'm just checking to see if you're in yet. Okay, I'll continue. The MPO also has developed evaluation metrics for their public outreach process and procedures. And these evaluations occur annually and is self-reported in MACOG's published annual review, which is a really, really nice document. Continuing with their accommodations, MACOG has proactively developed the indicators of potential disadvantages. Erica, you say you're in? Can you, if you'd like, you can take number 4.
I am in. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
So,
Great news. Okay. So as Joyce mentioned, we were really glad that MACOG proactively took the initiative to develop these indicators of potential disadvantage. It really shows that the policy committee and the staff are committed to deepening their approach to identifying appropriate and effective methods to reach underserved populations. A lot of times people just do the minimum, but this development of the IDPs really shows the commitment to try to engage all aspects of the public. So we thought that was definitely commendable.
and I don't know if Cecilia is on line, if she is. I know she had a conflict and she said she would try to join us. Okay, I don't hear her, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. FTA was commending MACOG on their on providing leadership and support and technical assistance to their partners while they were completing the 2017 Transit Asset Management Plan. And MACOG also updated that to meet the MAP 21 and FAST Act requirements in 2018. So thank you very much on that. And then you're also commended for your development of the equitable mobility action plan. So that's going to serve as MACOG's coordinated public human services plan. So that, and I guess you guys are supposed to be getting that done by the end of this year. So let's go with the recommendations. So one thing we noticed on the MACOG's memorandum of agreement between NDOT, the transit operators, and MACOG is that it's still referencing MAP 21. And so since then we've had FAST Act. And so eventually the Congress should be passing a new transportation bill. So whichever comes first, the new transportation bill or the next certification review, we're going to have pretty much all the MPOs be updating those MOAs, and that includes MACOG as well. Also for the next Metropolitan Plan update, you guys had just adopted a plan, I think in 2019, and performance measures are still coming online. And so in the future, a systems report must be there and detailing how the performance targets are being met in comparison with the baseline data. Let's see here. And then if MACOG also continues with its scenario planning and it possibly elects a preferred scenario, then an analysis would have to be performed on how that preferred scenario has improved the condition and performance of the transportation system and how changes in local policies and investments have impacted the costs necessary to achieve the performance targets. So that's only if MACOG locks down on a scenario, preferred scenario. So then on the congestion management process, one thing our review team is recommending is that MACOG include a list and then align those corridors with the goals, objectives, measures, and targets that are in the MTP. So I think I'm going to turn 5 over to Erica.
Yes, as we just referenced about the public outreach efforts, those are definitely commendable. We do want to make sure that at least a summary of public comments that have been received is documented in the TIP and MTP. And even if there are no significant comments received, just kind of an explicit statement to that effect would suffice. And then with regard to number 6, going back to the ALOP, which I think Joyce mentioned, we had a commendation about the tables in there, but we do want to make sure that all of the required information, including accurate project descriptions, are in alignment in the annual listing of obligated projects, and that the funding information, as much as available, is also included in that. So we want to ensure that MACOG staff continues to coordinate with NDOT and the respective transit operators in the area to get that information so it can be published in the ALOP. I think the next one is mine also. We would like to recommend that the staff make sure that all the reports and documents, the most recent ones, are posted on the website and that old versions are taken down. And then if there is a specific browser type that is more conducive to the settings or the documents that MACOG is using, you might want to just explicitly state that. So, you know, the public knows for optimum viewing, use Chrome, or for optimum viewing, use Microsoft Edge, or whatever works best, so that the public is not accessing it via browser that's not conducive to the document types that are available. And then number 8 is also mine. With regard to the public engagement plan, we do definitely recommend that explicit procedures are included with relation to how the public can access the MPO programs, planning documents, etc. during times of emergency, such as what we're experiencing now, and or any kind of deviation from the standard practices that you would normally do. So we want to make sure that the public is aware of how they can govern themselves and get access to the documents and MPO meetings and information that's relevant to them.
I'm going to turn these two over to Carrie, Carmody, George.
Yeah, morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. So the MTP did a good job of sort of laying out the projects and looking at using the RFI, the red flag investigation items to sort of review projects. But we would like to see a little bit more in terms of, it did a good job also of listing the environmental stakeholders, but not explicitly spelling out how those stakeholders were engaged in the MTP and whether or not those stakeholders chose to respond. It came out that outreach did occur, but we'd like to see a specific note if they are choosing not to comment on the MTP, and that would suffice there. And then with regards to the public transit human services plan, it should be updated to meet the most current FTA circular, which is listed on the slide there. So just needs to be updated to meet those requirements.
All right. So again, with there we go. So does anybody have any questions for us or thoughts or comments?
So essentially the certification review is something that's done every 4 years that reviews all of our processes and procedures related to transportation planning and makes sure that we're following all the appropriate regulations from US DOT, whether it be Federal Highway or Federal Transit Administration. Not only is it a certification review of what MACOG does, but it's also how the whole process works. So how that coordination with NDOT and with our transit partners and all of that interplays together. And it reviews our core products like our Metropolitan Transportation Plan, our Transportation Improvement Program, our annual listing of obligated projects, our congestion management process. All of those documents and processes are reviewed to understand how we do it, if there are deficiencies, which there were none, but then in the way of continual improvement, what areas we could improve on, and then where Federal Highway and USDOT and FTA, the review team, see that we're kind of exceeding and should be commended for doing some extra things. So overall, from my point of view, this was a very successful certification review. It was obviously a very different certification review as it was a virtual experience. So I want to commend all of the hard work that staff put in to prepare presentations for every topical area so that we could showcase our documents and our processes to the best of their ability. I appreciate everything the certification review team did to make it all work. And so I think it was a very successful review, but obviously if there are any questions that any of the board members have about the review, now would be a great time to answer or to pose those questions. And then we wanted to be able to do the presentation this month, and then at our next meeting, we will give you the, was a full version of the report provided? So we don't have it listed as an action item today to adopt that review, but we could ask for that action next meeting.
At the next meeting.
At the next meeting.
It could be presented to you otherwise.
Yep. So that was kind of our plan, was for you to hear the results, be told about the review today, and then that we would ask for your adoption of that review at the next meeting. But if there are any questions, now would be a great time.
And if anybody would like our presentation that we gave to the public, it really captures all those points that James just went over. You know, why we come out every 4 years, what are the products we're looking at. It's a short presentation, but it gives you the layout of the review. Have any questions later and you think of them, here's our information, and I'm sure this presentation can be shared with you guys as well by MACOG. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce.
How do I
Give us
stop?
just a second and we'll Joyce, if you end your presentation, and then we'll be able to resume our presentation. All right. So our next items are for the staff update. This is a very big, bold slide. This is not canceled forever. This is just policy board will be canceled for November. We've been having, this month you see that there is just a small number of items for the agenda. And next month, our meeting falls exactly on Veterans Day. It would have been right on Veterans Day. Many government offices are closed, as well as elected officials have many responsibilities on Veterans Day that makes it difficult for them to attend. Had this been a normal meeting during a normal time, we would have been hosting our Economic Development Forum, and so we would have just moved this date around. Given the situation, we're not doing that big in-person meeting. So we've made the decision that we will not have a November meeting because moving it off of the date without having an additional event or something like that just doesn't necessarily make sense. So while you can feel free to swing by our office, you might not find anybody there because the building is largely closed that day for Veterans Day. But you can always shoot me an email or give me a call if you want to chat on November 11th. But wanted to make sure that you're aware that we will not be having a November policy board meeting. With that, I'll turn it over to Ryan to go through a number of his items from the staff update.
Thank you, Jim. To start, we will briefly go over the fiscal year 2020 annual listing obligation project. So you know, total obligations within the MACOG region were about $72 million. Nearly $15 million of that went to local public agencies. And the county breakdown is, you'll typically see this graph every year in a very similar manner. It's very typical on how the funds are allocated per area.
And that's largely because St. Joe and Elkhart have dedicated funding from the urbanized area that comes to them every year. We compete and we help the local governments in the rural parts of St. Joe, Elkhart, Kosciuszko, and Marshall counties compete for NDOT funds. This graph changes when those projects develop and hit construction cycles. So right now you see smaller numbers in Marshall and Kosciuszko because they have a whole series of projects that are under development. So you're only seeing really preliminary engineering funds right now, whereas St. Joe and Elkhart has a steady flow of construction projects that are federally funded because of the urbanized area funding.
So a little bit about the funding breakdown. As James was mentioning, you'll see some a few $100,000 for several projects. These are typically design phase, like James was mentioning, and then on the local road projects, you'll see $8.4 million there, which is typically the higher spend of the federal dollars, and then the bridges. So we have a number of bridges in our southern counties being reconstructed through the course of the next 4 years. Are there any questions on how the annual listing of obligated projects report is put together, or anything else in regards to the funding? Good.
But if you do want to learn more and dig into this, there's a full report online that goes through every project in detail that you can find on our website.
That's it. So, in regards to funding, these next few months will be busy with applications. The Community Crossing Grant is currently open and closes this month on October 23rd. We currently have 14 communities within the MACOG region that are actively applying for projects. This call was postponed by NDOT, but we're pretty happy that they pulled it back into September. NDOT also has another call coming up. However, these are federal funds, while the community crossing funds are state funds. They don't officially name it the rural call, but it is for rural areas that cannot be funded by the MPO. So counties in St. Joe and Elkhart counties have areas in which they can apply, as do all of Marshall and Kosciuszko counties. So we have identified 6 projects so far that communities will be applying for starting November 2nd. But so you're aware, it does end December 11th, and if you do need any help or your staff does, please feel free to contact me and let me know. And then the third call that is currently also open is the MACOG call for projects. This closes November 2nd, so I would urge our communities to look online. An email has gone out with a link to get to the application. But if you go to our transportation page, there's a link there as well to access it. It's near the bottom. So that, I'll turn it over to Leah.
Good morning. I have an update on the Regional Brownfields Coalition. We just finished our first year out of the 3-year grant period, and we actually expect to have spent about 50% of the funding. If anyone would like to see a breakdown of funding by site, I will have that finished by the end of this week and would be happy to send that out. Otherwise, it will be available at the next policy board meeting in December. We also had virtual regional public meetings that were attended by about 30 people last month, and a lot of interest in especially the Argonne corridor in Warsaw during those meetings. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time. All right. An update on the item diesel-wise funding opportunity that comes around about once a year. This one is a little different in that it is only funding non-road equipment, which may be less applicable to local governments, but I think there may be opportunities for municipal airports and runway brooms and that kind of equipment. So this grant will be due November 25, so definitely reach out if there's interest. One notable thing is that the threshold was fairly high last time for engine hours. It was 1,000 engine hours, but that's now been reduced to 500 hours. And the funding levels are 25% for replacing diesel and 45% for replacing with zero tailpipe emissions equipment. That's all I have on that update.
Thank you, Leah. Privilege of the floor. Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment.
Yeah, so we do have an item for public comment that I wanted to share with the board. So we did receive a comment on Monday. On Monday morning, Ms. Stacy Reeves stopped into my office to submit a public comment for the MACOG Policy Board. The public comment is in regards to supporting the need for quadrant gates at the Norfolk Southern Railroad crossings at Ash and Beach near Osceola. The reason that Ms. Reeves brings this to our attention is that Ms. Reeves' son, Frankie, in September of 2018, he was on his way to work on the 5th of September, headed down to Napanee to, I believe, work at Newmar. He had tried to cross at Beach, but there were a number of trains that had come out of the Robert Young Yard and had blocked the crossings. Eventually, after waiting there for a while, went to the Ash Road location where that train had finally cleared. The gates were still down, and he thought, presumably, or the family believes that he thought that the gates were just down because of that train, and unfortunately there are multiple lines there, and he drove around the down gates, and there was a train coming in the other direction, and he was struck and killed. Ms. Reeves and the family is just trying to prevent this from happening to any other family. And we had a chat on Monday. She had circulated, her and the family had circulated a petition for quadrant gates that had 252 people signing on. As well as then they're also interested in understanding in that area the potential for a grade separation like an underpass or overpass near the Osceola areas. They have a petition that has circulated since that tragedy occurred in 2018 that has about 2,500 people signed on to it. I appreciated that she shared her story with me. I let her know that MACOG does not own any transportation assets, but that what we do is study and attempt to resolve regional issues, and train safety is a regional issue. And so I appreciated her comments and sharing her very personal story. If the county or Osceola, and I've let county and Osceola folks know that if they have interest in pursuing a project, say for quadrant gates or other railroad safety improvements, that there might be two options that are available. The first is the Indiana Railroad Grade Crossing Fund. It's a state-funded program that provides funding for railroad highway crossing improvements for local governments or an eligible entity. The application cycle typically opens in late spring, and more on the program can be found on INDOT's website. I know that program had been temporarily paused during COVID, so I'm hopeful that it'll be reopened in spring so that resource could be available. As well as Ryan mentioned, the MACOG call for projects is currently open. Our annual call is open from October 6th through November 2nd, and MACOG has funded safety improvements at railroad crossings in the past for local governments. We had done a project with the city of Goshen related to 6 crossings near the Pearl Street area, so that could be an option. ultimately, if the county wanted to pursue that, MACOG would support them and try and help them find those resources. When it comes to the grade separation, I mentioned that is a longer term discussion, something that would be more 20 or 30 years in the making, as that is a 20 to 30 some $1 million investment. And that could be studied and would need to be studied before any considerations were really made related to that. But there are a few crossings coming out of that Robert Young yard in Elkhart that could be looked at, that they all have active warning gates, like 2 gates, but that could be looked at for quad gates or other safety improvements. There's Ash, Apple, Beech, Cottage Grove, Elder, Oakside, and Klein. Some of those locations, like Beech and Cottage Grove, are in the town of Osceola, so anything that would be done would have to be kind of a joint project, working with Norfolk Southern to see what improvements they might allow. We're always a technical resource and will help try to find funding, but we don't own those assets, so we can't make that decision. But I wanted to relay those comments from Mrs. Reeves, and just really appreciated her sharing her story about her son Frankie, and as she looks to try and find just a solution for other families. So that was the public comment. Didn't know if anyone wanted to add on to that public comment or anything, but wanted to make sure that the board was aware of the public comment.
Thank you, James.
James, this is Phil Jenkins. Just want to, another resource might be US DOT, Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements.
That is a great point, Mayor. What the mayor is referencing is a CRISI grant that can often be used for safety. And Mayor, I don't know if you would want to speak about your project that was recently funded with CRISI funds.
Sure. We had a local resident that was took it upon himself to kind of put the data together for us, but we submitted a grant and received $1.4 million to improve the intersections across the city of Napanee. And it involves equipment on the rail line for the CSX to make improvements, but also improvements to the grade crossings themselves, the medians, the crossing gates, and everything else. So we're pleased to get that grant, and it's to improve safety. So I would encourage anyone who's interested, if they have any questions, they can reach out to us. But we're thrilled to have that grant and the opportunity to improve the safety of those crossings in Napanee.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That is also another resource that is available. That would conclude all of the public comments that we received since last meeting.
The chair would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you all.
Thank you, and we'll see you in December. We will not have a November meeting as previously discussed. We'll see you in December. Have a great one.